guys, welcome to my channel Code Fleet, and this is Vinay, and today we're going to be talking about OOPS concept, and that is object-oriented programming language. And so this is it's a short form of object-oriented programming language, OOPS. So these are the topics that I'm going to be covering. The first one is class, constructor, methods, also known as special functions, object, class variable versus instance variable, inheritance, polymorphism. I have written all the code in my notebook here, as you can see. I decided to do that because it's going to be a long video if I try to write it with the along with the video. So don't worry about that. I'm going to be explaining each and every line as I go with the video. So let's start with what is a class, constructor, method, and objects. I'm going to be splitting this into 3 or 4 videos so that each and every video has its own small length. So that it does not go like around 1 hour or 1.5 hours. It's going to be like a 15-minute video each. So let's start. What is a class? As I told you what is a class in my previous video, so I'm just going to be starting with the syntax here. So the syntax of class is the first is the class keyword, and then you give it a name, a class name. Then inside the class you just create a method, any statement, any variable, anything you can just use without a class. Anything just you can write in a piece of code, you can use here inside the class. So always keep first letter of class name in uppercase. Remember this thing, whenever you create a class, just keep the first letter of the class name in uppercase, so that you don't get into trouble in the near future when you do something with the class. Okay, so here we have a first class keyword, then class name car. We are just creating a simple class here, and the another thing that I'm going to be posting this notebook in the description down below, so that you can use them later in your local system and learn if you didn't get something in this class, so that you can work out on your own with this notebook. So okay, so this thing is new here. Def, def is used, it's a defined, it is used to create a function, but in class here we call them methods. So this undercover, and it undercover, it's a class constructor here. If you don't know what a constructor here, let me tell you. Class constructor, as soon as you create an object of the class, it automatically runs, it automatically get invoked. So whatever if you define some variable in here, you can use them anywhere inside that class, inside that particular class of the constructor. This self keyword, it's something so important. Without this you can't do anything in the OOPS. So this self keyword refers to that instance, that object that you will create with this class car here. Let me tell you, you will understand this. And this is name and model. These are the parameters that I give it. So this self.name, what it will do, I'll tell you just now. It's equals to name, self.model is equals to model. So here is the line of code which tell you everything about this class here. So this C1 here is the name of the object that will goes to this self. Whenever you run this line of code, this C1 will goes to this self, and it will become C1.name is equals to name, and C1.model is equals to model. So this C1 is equals to this car is the name of this class, and these two parameters here I just passed, and these two, if you will run this code, these two parameters goes to this here, name and model. And if you do not pass this, it will show you something like, okay, let me run this code. It will show you something like this: constructor missing 2 required positional arguments, name and model. So that's why you will have to give them here. And first I have to give them name of car is auto, and the model number is 800, and it's kind of a really cheap car. It's not that something so rich. If we do this, the object now has been created, the instance of this class has been created. Okay, if you are confused what an instance is, instance and object are just the same thing. It's just a matter of the word. So it's a simple class where you just create a class and define a constructor here. And now we understand what a self is, so I'll be going fast with this self thing. Okay, so here we create a new class car and we define a init function that is a constructor, and we did the same thing here like this. So here we have another method here, display. Okay, you will have to put the self here so that you can use these variables into these method. So by using this self, we are printing here name and model, and this is self.name and self.model. So what it will do is, I'll just show you now. And another thing, if you don't know how did I print this, what is dot format, remember one thing, in this string, as you can see that these are the new things here, curly brackets, and whenever you put these curly brackets and you use dot format, and so I mean there are two curly brackets here and there are two variables in the format. So what it will do is that self.name will be printed in this curly bracket and self.model will be printed in this curly bracket. It's kind of a easy thing to print, I mean if there are so many variables. So what are we doing here is that we are creating an object of the class car with these parameters. So now we are calling this display method with this instance of the car, c1.display. You can have as many methods as you want in the class, and you can just call them with the instance created. So we are calling c1.display. So what this display will do is it will print name and the model of the car. As you can see, name and the model, and this alto is self.name here, and this is alto, and this self.model is 800, so that we have 800 here. It's the same thing, it's not that difficult. So last thing I'm going to tell you here is what is a class variable and what is an instance variable. And after this we're going to conclude this video, and we will start in the next video with a new topic. Okay, so what is a class variable? As we have the definition here, variable that is created inside a class but outside any of the class methods and is shared with all the instances objects of class. That means you can create a variable that is not inside a method, but it is not outside any class. It is inside a class but outside any method, and those variables are called class variables. And if you talk about what are instance variable, it's just that a variable that is created inside a class method, and this variable will be accessible to only current instance object of the class. That means any variable that you create inside any method is known as the instance variable, and that variable will only be accessible to the particular instance that you just created, and that variable will be different for the other instance if you create another instance for the same class. Okay, let's see here. We have created a class bag, and we have this variable here, books is equals to 0. Okay, this books is equals to 0 variable is not inside any method, so this variable here is known as the class variable. Okay, so we have created our constructor here, and we are using this pass keyword because we do not want anything to do here. Okay, so we are just passing everything from here, and we are going to that display. We have a pen is equals to 10. We have 10 pen here. Okay, we are defining this variable inside a method here. So this any variable that is declared or initialized inside a method is known as the instance variable, and we are just printing instance variable dot format pen. We are printing the value of it. Okay, so what we can do here, we can access the class variable just directly with the class, and we can do this bag.books. We use dot operator, and we just directly use the name of that class variable, and it gives us the value of that. Okay, it is 0. And if we do here bag.pan, we can't access that because it is not a class variable, it is an instance variable. It shows you that type object bag has no attribute pan because it defined in a method, and it is not a class variable, so that you can just access them freely. Okay, for to access that variable, you will have to create an instance here. That's why it is called an instance variable, and you just use that that method display, and it will give you the value of the pen. Instance variable is 10, that is we have a 10 value. Okay, so that concludes this with the class objects and all the other things like class variable, instance variable. In the next video, we're going to be talking about inheritance. What are inheritance and how we can use them, and what are the benefits? What are the benefits of using inheritance? The inheritance video is going to be a pretty long. Not that much long, but comparable to the other video, it's going to be long. So see you next time in the next video, and for now, thank you so much.